open the door, set me free. I hear you calling me. Open up, shine your loving light on me. My hands are dirty, but my heart is ready. My knees are weak, but my back is strong. My hand on the plow is steady. Won't you shine your light on me? Open the door, set me free. I hear you calling me. Open up, shine your loving light on me. My daddy told me, son, now every morning, put your shoulder up against that stone. It don't matter if you really get it rolling. So shine your light on me. Open the door, set me free. I hear you calling me. Open up and shine your loving light on me. Well, shine your light on me. Open the door, set me free. I hear you calling me. Open up and shine your loving light on me. There's a train a-coming. I see the headlights. All God's children gonna get on board. Ain't nobody gonna get left behind. Oh, shine your light on me. Open the door, set me free. I hear you calling me. Open up, shine your loving light on me. I hear you calling me. Open up and shine your loving light on me. Hey! All right, good morning, everybody. It's so good to be back with you on this Sunday morning. And look who's back, the entire crew. They left me here all alone last week because Mama was so important or something. I don't know. But they're all back today. Sarah Ann.
Yes.
So good to see you, all dressed in pink today. Even pink fingers. We have pink. Noted. Pink capo, pink shirt, pink hat.
I love pink.
It was Sarah's idea that it would be a cowboy Sunday. Right? Your idea, or was it Ricky's?
You texted us and you said we're, meeting back up, cowboys and cowgirl. And I said, are we wearing cowboy, cowgirl attire?
Oh, that was all it took then.
That's all it took. So just a little prompt.
That's right. No, it don't. We like to play dress up. And then back here behind us, the wonderful Ricky Joe Stanfield. He went up to Missouri where it was cold and he loved it. 37 degrees. He only had one flannel shirt, so he about froze to death. So he's back. And he looks mighty dapper in his velvet sport coat and his cowboy hat and plastic Jesus back there somewhere with him. You got plastic Jesus today, all right. And Tim is back. Tim, the man in black, the black cowboy hat. And, of course, Ricky, what's your names? Bobby and Garrett are here behind the cameras today. We got a great treat for you today. And one of the treats is this song right here Sarah's going to sing called The Goodness of God.
I love you, Lord. Well, let's do that again. I started the wrong key. I should have checked that before I did it.
Well, you're rusty.
Well, let me just preface this.
You're rusty.
I'm rusty. No, this is one of my favorite songs. I just love it so much. It's just such a good little praise and worship song. If you're in your car, jamming out to it, lift your hands, scare the person driving beside you. Keep one hand on the wheel. And no hands on your mouth. I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest nights. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father, and I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. Oh, all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I'll still sing of the goodness of God.
Oh, oh, deep water, black and cold like the night. Will I stand with arms wide open? I've drawn a twisted line. I'm a stranger in the eyes of the naked. I could not see for the fire in my eyes. I could not feel for the fear in my life. But across the great divide, in the distance I saw the light. John Baptiste coming to me with the Maker. My body is bad and broken by a long and dangerous sleep. I can work the fields of Abraham, turn my head away. I'm not a stranger in the eyes of the Maker. Brother John, have you seen the homeless daughters standing there with broken wings? I have seen the flaming sword over east of Eden, burning in the eyes of the Maker. Burning in the eyes of the Maker. Burning in the eyes of the Maker. Oh, river, rise from your sleep. Oh, river, rise from your sleep. Oh, river, rise from your sleep.
So a great role reversal today. I'll be reading the scripture. The scripture reading today is from Luke chapter 9, verses 23 through 25, and this is the Message translation. Jesus speaking, he told them what they could expect for themselves. And speaking to his disciples, Jesus said, anyone who intends to come with me has to let me lead. You're not in the driver's seat. I am. Don't run from suffering. Embrace it. Follow me and I'll show you how. Self-help is no help at all. Self-sacrifice is the way. My way to finding yourself, your true self. What good would it do to get everything you want in life and lose you, the real you? Our speakers today are Anna and Lexi Balfour. Anna usually has our reading each week. Anna, if you don't know her, has a doctorate in clinical psychology. She is a licensed professional counselor and has an advanced certification as a schema therapist. She resides here in Santa Rosa Beach with her husband, Doug, And with them recently has been their daughter, Lexi Balfour. Lexi moved to the United States when she was 18. She is a graduate of the Penn State University with a degree in international politics. For the last 10 years, she has been doing humanitarian and philanthropic consulting throughout the world with an emphasis on health, education, and anti-human trafficking. And most recently, in the last number of years, she has been leading a nonprofit collective in New York on the island of Manhattan, empowering and protecting those living in low-income public housing. And her community has been especially devastated by the COVID-19 outbreak, and she has been here with her parents in Florida for a number of weeks. And it's a rare opportunity to have these two women together, mother and daughter, and I just had to take advantage of it before Lexi returns back to the city. Anna and Lexi Balfour today speaking on the journey of surrender. And here's a special song by Sarah Ann Davidson before they come.
God had a name, what would it be, and would you call it to his face? If you were faced with him in all his glory, what would you ask if you had just one question? Yeah, 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 God is great. Yeah, yeah, God is good. Yeah, 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 yeah. What if God was one of us? Just as loved like one of us. Just a stranger on the bus, trying to make his way home. If God had a face, what would it look like, and would you want to see it? If seeing meant that you would have to believe it in things like heaven and in Jesus and the saints and all the prophets. Yeah, yeah, God is great. Yeah, yeah, God is good. Yeah, 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 yeah. What if God
So, hi everyone, and Lexi. Lovely to have you staying with us longer than we thought. You moved.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So, how long for?
So it'll be 9 weeks tomorrow that you've been staying with us.
Wild.
It's wild. Not expected. Came down for a vacation on March the 16th and never went back. So you're now working here, living with us. We've been amusing ourselves by doing a podcast, isolating with your therapist mum on Spotify. So that's been fun. And
That's
it's
a little plug.
and it's been a wonderful opportunity, quite a gift, to be able to talk about things and not have to wrap up that conversation, which normally we have to if you're going back. And of course, it's a time when we're all very much out of control, and we've talked about that a lot. It's been a gift between us, but there's obviously been some tension and things we've worked through. So this time of being out of control, we've generally been thinking and talking about that in terms of it's a time about having to surrender and let go, which gets us back to the reading for today about, as Christians, as Christ followers, we're called not to be in the driving seat and let Jesus be there. More familiar for some might be we have to give up our own way, take up our cross daily, being crucified with Christ, dying to self. So we thought we'd unpack, what does that mean to surrender, to die, to give up ourselves, to give up our own way? So that's where we've been.
That's heavy. Especially at this time, there's so much uncertainty, and embracing that and being called as Christians to embrace that is just really, really hard. And yet it also sounds simple in terms of just let go, surrender.
Let God.
So I wanted to ask you a question first, which was breaking it down.
Yep.
How do you feel that in your life you've really seen this come into play? Like in a life event
Surrender,
that you can remember that you've had to let go and that you've had to struggle with that and let God lead?
Yeah, so my most recent memory, big event, was we moved here a few years ago, and as a psychologist I'd given up my practice, as you know, in Philadelphia.
That's what I'm afraid of.
When we moved here, and I gave up my practice in Pennsylvania, psychologist, and Doug found a new CEO to take over his philanthropy company. So we were here ready for the new life. Didn't know what would be, what would we be doing. But 6 weeks down here, his CEO arrived and said he was leaving. And it's like, and you can hear there's still some stuff in me. So I lost my playmate. He went back to Philadelphia, backwards and forwards, 97 flights in a year, in a day.
And you didn't have community here. You just
Nope.
moved here.
Just moved here, and
you lost your purpose as well, because you left your own work and purpose.
Absolutely. And didn't really know what I was meant to be doing. So I kind of did my usual, which is, like I'm a doer, which is I kind of tried to keep pressing on different doors, and everything was shut. Even after the hurricane, things just continued, and it was. I was left. I was stuck. I couldn't do anything.
And you tried so many things.
Yeah, as you know.
And there was a clear sign in many directions for you to pause.
Yeah, and actually I ended up having to sit a lot more, be in the house, couldn't go off for as many coffees or whatever, and had to stop and look at what was going on inside of me rather than doing my usual, which was being in control and manage stuff. And it was hard, and so I began doing a bit more of this meditation, contemplation stuff about sitting, beginning with just a couple of minutes and being shocked at all the stuff going. I couldn't be still in my head.
Well, then you also hear all the thoughts.
Absolutely, like, oh, you're no good because you should be doing stuff. What are you doing? And a verse from my youth was, to whom God has given much, much will be expected. And that's what I was meant to be doing a lot. And I was sitting doing nothing. And I noticed that on this dusty mirror that they talk about our brains being when we actually stop and reflect and meditate, there was all these thoughts coming back to me about I wanted to control what I was going to do tomorrow, what I was going to cook for
And
dinner.
that's the dust on the mirror, are the thoughts?
Yeah, and you kind of have to sit long enough to get that dust cleared off, the dirt, right? The dust and the dirt. And that was really hard to do. But in doing that, realised there was so much I had to let go of how I felt my life should go at this time. What about you? Have you had situations and events?
Oh, lots of situations, but also not many that I actually turned to God in and really let go in the way you're talking about. I think my first full experience of really trying to wrestle with God in letting go was last year in November. I left my job. I left my church. Kind of all my support structures at once kind of crumbled. One of my best friends got in an accident, so I couldn't talk to her, and she was struggling. And there was just one thing after the other. I had no health insurance, and then I go for a pap smear, and it turns out that I had severely abnormal cells, and it was accelerating to be cervical cancer. And so I had to have a procedure, and I had to decide about that procedure. And it was a really hard decision at a time when I didn't have health insurance, when I felt I should be job searching, when all these different parts of my life.
Where you should have the procedure.
Yeah.
And the price
and
difference.
my usual go-to, there's clearly a related pattern here. I am a doer. I am make it happen. Bring it to life. And so my usual go-to would be like, okay, you just got to get on with it. You got to make the decision, move forward. But I was really struggling. I felt so isolated, scared of the future, of everything that was unknown. And instead I kind of talked to a friend and one of my best friends, Rachel, and she said, why don't you just pause for 1 week? 1 week won't affect this. 1 week, and you just you wrestle with God like Jacob wrestles with God. and why don't you ask him for peace? And I was like, that's the most illogical thing right now. I don't need a feeling. I need decisions. I need action. I need to find a way forward. And so I did, and I kind of tried to give all my emotions, and also fought with God and felt I was being punished or, these different things. But I remember walking out to a pier in New York and just being okay, God, I just want peace. I just want that feeling of calm, and that you're here, and that presence. And I actually did feel it. It wasn't like a lightning bolt, but it was okay, I feel like I didn't make this decision alone.
So it was a very different way of
it was a choice. And so I made a decision. Not to say it all went well. I then ended up back in ER, and I had a weeks of actually isolating at home, living alone, and on a 4-story apartment building where I had to depend on lots of people to help me bring up and down things from my apartment and all this stuff. But I'm recovered now and all of that. But so I think that for me was I let myself be vulnerable in the process, both with other people to let them in without charging ahead. And I depended on God in that time. I was desperate for God, actually.
But it was a very different dependence in that you actually stopped.
Yeah.
And you allowed yourself to feel emotion.
Yeah, which is scary because you feel powerless, and you feel you don't want to, let it all in and let yourself feel like that. And you don't want to, I think, acknowledge, it's very it's easy for me to say I want God to lead, but then that means that I'm not leading, and accepting that as well. So so what about you? So you hear Christians say all the time, lay down your life, and what the heck does that really mean? So practically for you, what does that mean, lay down your life?
So I think it's interesting that we've called this journey to surrender, or journey of surrender, because I think I grew up feeling it was a destination, that I came to know the Lord Jesus, gave my heart to him.
When you were 4 years old,
When I
you
was
told
4
me.
years old,
It's
I laid
like,
down
oh,
my
that
life
must have been
and I was-
really deep for you.
I was a very deep person.
I know
then.
you were deep, fine.
And then it went on, and I, did it again when I was 9, and whenever else you do it again. But it was then, and I think Richard Rohr, Richard Rohr, R-O-H-R, never say it right.
Well, our accent messes it up
yeah,
anyway.
that's right. A Franciscan priest who wrote Falling Upward, talks about first and second half of life, which I found a really useful, helpful way in my spiritual journey. So the first half of life is about having a container to keep your ego, for your ego, that we contain ourselves, and it's all about developing self-control. So in giving up and laying down my life to Christ, I then do things maybe I wouldn't naturally have done, or not do things I wouldn't naturally have done, and it's about self-control. And it's about, understanding and reading my Bible, about praying, about mission trips, about doing stuff
All
like
external metrics.
things, which are great and really important. We need a first half, we need a container. But then he then talks about, for the second half of life, that container, there's some cracks that start to show. And it can be triggered not necessarily by age. I'm not particularly talking about age here, but we're talking about an event or something that happens. And that container starts to crack. And rather than reading more and doing more, which I tended to do, for me, there were several things that happened that meant it was no longer a shiny container. And I had to look inside that container.
So does that include looking at shadow and stuff like that you talk about in psychology?
Yeah, and shadow and our false self and our true self and all these other terms that I think are really helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me well, you tell me. First of all, does first or second, does that make any sense to you?
It does make sense. It's always hard to kind of hear that and say, okay, that wasn't my experience, but where does it fit? But I think the first half of life, it sounds like you were trying to perform, like all of that kind of. You were a good girl. I, as you know, was not. So I went the other way and was like, I'm just cynical by nature. I don't know, but I was looking at missionary. I grew up abroad in different places, and you were missionaries in a missionary house with all these people that were Christians.
Doing relief work and that
but
kind of stuff,
they're people, and you're seeing a lot of things, and you're like, are these Christians? How are Christians different than other people? What are, and I'm trying to figure this out. And I just went very black and white, which was probably my first half of life. I built a container of like what's in, what's out, and trying to figure that out in terms of, I saw Jesus as this radical, loving, justice fighting kind of hero, and how do I seek after that? And you and Dad are pretty radical in your choices in life, but also I didn't see a collective faith like that, and I didn't see in
the communities.
Yeah, in churches. Yeah. I mean, we had a pastor that had an affair with someone in the congregation. We had
a good friend.
We had lots of incidences where I saw hypocrisy, and I saw all of this stuff on the outside. So I was saying, well, basically, I tried to be an atheist for a long time. It didn't really work out. I failed at it, but that's what was my mission. I was like, I can't, and I was just angry. I was angry at this thing that I felt so connected to internally, but externally couldn't align myself with.
So how did you then move
to the
second half?
Second half, good stuff. So then I moved through to the second half in terms of, I think, obviously all you just heard me say is just obnoxiously judgmental. And so I think I moved through in being not moved. Lots of disappointments in a row led me to be like, maybe it's not me looking at all these external people and pointing the finger and saying, I don't want anything to do with that. That was safer because I didn't have to then, the rhythm of my Christian faith now and communities I'm part of is about repentance and confession and this continual relationship.
Actually got to be working for a church.
And then, so I think for me now it's coming back to a place that's grey, that's not black and white, and the second half of life being acceptance of the mess, but also letting go of that and seeing all the crap in me and seeing all the stuff in me and seeing like, wow, like I'm judgmental, I'm this, I'm that, and like, where's that coming from? And I did a year of therapy. And I moved
Not
to
with
New
me.
York for this. No, that wouldn't have gone well. And then did a year of therapy. Yeah, I moved to New York for a new job that was meant to be this best thing. My whole identity was wrapped up in the work I did, humanitarian stuff, fighting for justice on the outside, and then feeling disappointed on the inside. So I ended up working for a church for 2 years, which honestly was. Like,
tell me about the conversation you had when you went for the interview.
Yeah, it was the worst thing that could have happened to me, and I really love people that work at churches, and now it's actually the best thing that happened to me in terms of my transformation, and lowering all those walls and looking inside myself. But at the time, I felt a lot of pride and ego built up in what I did. And then that all fell apart, and I was so burnt out from humanitarian stuff and different startups that I went to, I was just up for taking hourly jobs basically, and I was working different places, and I met with a church.
You went on the beach, and I said, you told me about this job. And
and you told me not to work at a church because you were worried because I was finally coming to a place of faith that you were like, this is going to break it. If you see what's behind the Wizard of Oz curtains, you're going to be, But actually, it's the best thing I ever did, because I remember, meeting with this pastor, and I said, I don't know if I'm Christian. I don't know if I'm willing to take that label. I'm going to work here, but I'm going to do just tangible things the organization needs. And then I'm going to leave after a few months. I don't want this on my resume. I'm not doing this. Like, this isn't a career for me.
And you got the job.
And he was like, himself was he was a vulnerable, he just was someone that opened up his whole life. His family opened up their life to me. They became family in New York, the organization itself. And I hadn't met such radically honest Christians. And that was the difference for me, was like, oh, these people are sharing all their own hypocrisies. They're sharing all the things.
Yeah, they were second half looking at what's inside.
So that's what shifted for me, was just, being able to let go and surrender to God. And honestly, it felt like I was giving up on my life, because I died. I'm still dying all the time. Obviously, that's just biological. But like,
wrinkles.
All right, stop with the wrinkles. But daily, I, just realizing like the me I was desperately trying to hold on to, who I wanted to be in the world, was kind of, I was just letting that go. And anyway, enough of that.
And that,
I'm interested, to hear about your second half.
I think it echoes a lot of that. So for me, the second half began, interestingly, around my 40s, when we were part of a church that actually basically didn't want my job to be involved with the church. So as a psychologist, I was helping and meeting with people, and I was basically told not to do any of that in church.
Why?
Because I was doing God's job for him, which is a whole other story.
Wow. Okay.
And then other churches, it was because I was a woman. I wasn't allowed to give communion, even though I could do some worship songs up to the communion. Then I had to sit down. Somebody gave the bread and wine, and I could pop up again. So there was that part. So it's like slowly all the bits of me in my container were being stripped and taken away. And then the most recent one was actually eventually evolved in the pastor meeting with me and telling me, actually, Anna, the church don't want you. And there's a whole history to that. And it's like, wow, what is left of me? Because I was really involved with church, committed to discipleship and being involved. And it was like there was nothing left of me.
Yeah.
And that was a real tough time of my container being totally cracked. And then having to look inside. Well, as you said before, it's a choice. And it was like, no, there's something more than just doing all this stuff. It's got to be what's inside the
And the
container.
irony is like, when you let go, and you let go of me, which feels like dying, is you actually, and this is obviously biblical, you gain the world, you gain.
Well, you feel free,
but
there's no
you
pretense.
become more of your true self, because you're not thinking about who you should be, you're just being, in theory.
And people
very hard
living
to
with
do,
me
but
have known me, I'm more spontaneous and maybe fun, I've let that come out.
I see you being more fun these
you.
days. Yeah.
It's being around you too, and Doug. But yeah, anyway, getting lost a bit here. So this week.
Yeah. So now let's bring it back now.
Right here.
Okay. So uncertainty, isolating. Where are you seeing this come up? We talked about big things, but what about a
the
small
little
thing?
things? So I had an example which I'm not proud of, but it's up to the minute 2 or 3 days ago. And I probably, like all of us, there's more chocolate, wine and whatever else there is.
Binging Netflix, everything. Yeah.
And
numbing ourselves. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. We're not being present. Come back to being present to the moment. And somebody in our household had taken another chocolate, a Dove chocolate.
Yeah, I steal them all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't you, though. So
Yeah.
it was somebody
All right.
else. It wasn't the cats. So it must have been the man in the house.
Okay.
And I said, which was stupid, but I just said, oh, having another chocolate. And that did not go down well, as you might imagine, if you know Doug. And, you know, he was, well, why does it matter to you? And et cetera. And my usual response on the surface, because, you know, I want to look like a nice person. I don't want to say that I've got stuff going on inside me in here that isn't so pleasant. I said, well, then I need to know I need to go and buy some more to stock up our, you know, supplies. But I actually stopped and took a breath and thought, hold on, what is going on inside me? And one of the keys to, I think, surrender is noticing when there's a disturbance inside, which is a guy called Michael Singer in Untethered Soul talks about.
And you let the disturbance pass through you.
And you let the disturbance pass through you, and you're aware of it rather than just bottling it up. So I was aware of this disturbance, and I actually said to myself, hold on, what is this stuff about one little piece? It might have been more than one piece of chocolate about. And I realized it's about control. And it's just what we're talking about. I can control a bit of my world, which isn't really my world because it's Doug's.
Well, it's your shopping duty.
My shopping duty.
That's my world. That's my job.
And, you know, it was affecting things, and I could be in control of one thing at this time, which is the chocolate stash.
Yeah.
And it's silly, but we can multiply this to bigger stuff. So I actually said to Doug later, I said, look, I'm sorry.
You're not fat. No, what did you say?
Which he will say, no, I'm my lowest weight.
He's his
and
lowest
most
weight, I know, and then yet you still picked on him.
Which is my shadow stuff. So,
Sorry, what did you say?
I was saying that to him, saying that I'm sorry. What I realised, I shouldn't have said that to him, but what I realised is it was a way for me to feel better about this time of uncertainty when I'm out of control. I'm not only trying to fix myself, I'm trying to fix everybody else around me, which actually is very first half, but I'm trying to learn what's on the inside and to work from the inside. And that completely changed the dynamic of the evening, the conversation, and it led to us talking more about what we were going to talk about today and stuff with Doug. So, you know, that was a very practical application to surrender, to dying to self, because I didn't look very good.
And that's a great point. Like, I feel like as we wrap up is thinking about how we talked about our individual journeys, but how actually surrendering obviously impacts those that we're around. And we're called to do this not for ourselves only, but for others.
Yeah.
And it's very counterintuitive to think about working on myself only before just jumping to working on my relationship with my mum.
Yeah,
which we've done a lot. But working on myself first will flow out of that. Will flow the fruits of that in our relationship.
Fruits of the spirit as we flow and walk in the spirit, in love and whatever.
So collectively, we're at this time. As a society, all facing this collective anxiety, angst. But also as Christians, like, and again, when we're called to not any, being the ones that derive our outcome of life, but actually being people that are sit in the discomfort of knowing that we're not the creator. How do you think about what's the kind of takeaway or call for our kind of community right now, our community and people that are listening?
So I think the first one we've already talked about, which is examining ourselves And you said then about, which reminded me of something again that Richard Rohr says about not transmitting the pain. So we can be a lightning conductor, or maybe that's, I don't know my analogies, but anyway, we're not going to transmit our pain.
Yeah.
And if we don't, it means we've got to do something inside with it. So we contain it here rather than kick the cat or the dog. We actually have to look at what's
Not
inside.
advocating that.
Just like the chocolate, look at what's inside rather than
Examine yourself
examine
first.
ourselves, which
Yeah.
I think comes back to some kind of quiet practice, which is the opposite of what I did when I was younger in the first half, which is the outside, the doing, going to the Bible and praying
Yeah.
my prayer list.
And there's never been a
Sitting.
time for more information and more consuming of content. Yeah.
But instead, sitting, even if it's for just 1 or 2 minutes, and going with the breath, breathing in and out, and maybe just using that be still and know that I am God. And we will have loads of stuff that will come up, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And we even if we just do it for 1 second, we manage to do a breath and just focus on the breath. And, you know, we notice through doing that all the stuff that's going on inside. So that would be one thing. The second is, I think, being patient with each other, which we've had to learn a lot of.
Oh, it's hard. So hard.
And because we all have our own journeys and we all work on different stuff at different times, and that's a real pain. If we were all working on the same
And
thing,
we
it'd be
don't
easy.
know what we're each working on.
No.
Like it's so like unconscious in some of our journeys that
Yeah.
you know, Agreed.
So being patient with each other and loving, and recognizing too that there's a great gift in this surrender. We do gain our lives in a funny way, because I'm much more in the present. I'm in the flow, if you like. I'm noticing
And
things.
isn't it nice to not be in control in some sense? If you trust God and
If you
believe
trust God,
that
yeah.
things will be okay
Yeah.
in whatever
Yeah.
way that means, not
Yeah.
that you will be happy or that
Yeah.
things will necessily
Yeah.
be
And
perfect.
there's a great
but,
verse
yeah.
about underneath. God is our refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms. And I often remember that he holds us, even though we can't hold ourselves.
Yeah.
That
We don't
he
know the
is bigger.
future, but he holds
We don't know
it.
the future.
Yeah.
And then the last one is that, you know, God, which you touched on as well, is that God calls us to follow him, because there's going to be a certain fixed future, which ironically is what it's all about anyway. We never knew what was going to happen.
It's a mystery.
Tomorrow. It's
Faith is a mystery, yeah.
It's a mystery. And yet we think right now we've given up the future, that we can't manage it and can't control it. But we actually never could anyway.
A lot of the future we thought anyway are illusions. Like we have
Yeah.
no guarantees of those
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
So it's about detaching ourselves from the arrival and just being in that moment, and that deep place of the soul.
Yeah.
So we were going to, just to end with, I wanted to end by a paragraph from Richard Rohr, which I thought was great about what surrender is.
Richard Rohr sponsored this talk today.
He talks about surrendering to the divine flow, and that is about a quiet willingness to trust that you really are a beloved daughter or son, and allowing God to be your father and your mother. And in doing that, we allow that living water to flow through us to the world. And, you know, the world is changed by us surrendering, giving in. And it's just a beautiful circular thing.
I love that.
And then we also came up with the same, I suggested this morning that we end with a benediction. And it has the word peace in it. And you were saying, I thought we should end on the word peace.
Yeah.
We're both in the flow.
That's what's guaranteed to us when we're seeking God is not the
So,
outcomes, but
yeah.
the peace. Yeah.
So what we wanted to suggest is, just as I give this benediction that will be familiar, that maybe just as you're sitting wherever you're sitting at home, that you just kind of find yourself in a comfortable position, and maybe just rest your hands open on your lap, because that kind of implies that we're just open and available to God. And maybe you want to just close your eyes and take a deep breath in, and then just let it go, all your worries, concerns. And then me just to say that the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you his peace. Amen.
Amen.
I am a man who hides his feelings. I don't think I can keep from revealing all the things inside of me are out of control. So Lord, I'm letting go. I'm letting go. Lord, I'm letting go. I'm letting go. Lord, I'm letting go. There was a time things didn't matter. Reason and rhyme were second nature. It was all a big facade. I've come to know. So Lord, I'm letting go. I'm letting go. Lord, I'm letting go. I'm letting go. Lord, I'm letting go. I am calling. Are you hearing? I am falling. Come and catch me. I'm letting go. Lord, I'm letting go. I'm letting go. Lord, I'm letting go. Good to be with you this week. Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, Lexi. Thanks, Doug, downstairs. We'll be back on Wednesday night at 6:30 for our Q&A, and right back here on Sunday. letting go. I'm letting go. Lord, I'm letting go. I'm letting go.